amazing introduction by Shubhajit and this brilliant film. I don't know what I'm going to speak now. Firstly, there are quite a few of you sitting here in front of me, and I'm sure there are a few watching us online. But there are a lot of SIPs outside who have made this occasion possible. Many people outside who are not watching, hopefully they will get to hear this and see this later on. And as you all have joined us together here personally to celebrate 20 years of SIP Academy, a very special day in our lives. Many organizations don't last for 20 years. And now you must have read the news with so many EdTech organizations struggling to manage, some of them laying off people and maybe even closing down. And we are actually hiring more and more people. When we saw the number of people we have for this annual employee meet, we were quite amazed. Almost 1/3 of the people are new this year. That's quite a large number. I was actually thinking what to speak today because you guys have known so much about me and I keep talking about SIP and talking about past and everywhere else. So I just thought maybe I'll reiterate some thoughts and maybe share a few points which may be new to some of you. So firstly, I want to start by thanking people who were there with me before I started SIP. But also it's important, to remember that you were someone before you started the organization. And I think the first people I would like to thank are my parents. I'm quite happy that they're here. So, I think what my parents taught me was that you need to be independent and take your own decisions. And I think in many ways I did things which they never agreed with. And they may not have been very happy with what I did, but they taught me to be independent, so they've got to face the brunt of it now. So even now, I do a lot of things which they may not agree with, but end of the day, they kind of accept what I've done, and when they look back, they kind of appreciate what I've done. Another special thanks I want to give to people who were with me when I started my first venture. One is a person some of you would be knowing, a person called Krishna Kishore, who was there with my first venture before I started SIP, and there was one more person called Shankar who didn't continue. They were also instrumental in me thinking about starting something, because when you're working in a good corporate job, and I'm sure some of you here are working good corporate jobs, taking a risk to quit and start something is never easy. And you need some other people to believe in you to take that risk. And I think they were people who gave me that initial encouragement to start off. In some ways, I think I'd also like to thank our children because they bore the brunt of all our travels and the weekends out and late nights and hard work as we put in a lot of effort over the last 20 years in building this organization. I know it's a good time to be a little emotional, positively emotional, It's always nice to look back. And I remember when I first started off, even before I started off SIP, I was that young, overconfident, brash young guy who thought, you could start something and make something possible. And I was just talking to some of the new joinees recently. I was telling them that sometimes it's good to be brash and overconfident, because if you're too calculated, you'll never do it. Sometimes being that overconfident, brash, young youth is actually helpful if you look back. And I've said this many a time, if I had all the knowledge of what would actually happen after I started off, I may never have started off. So sometimes it's good that one doesn't know everything that's what's going to happen in the future. The other person I think I would also like to especially appreciate on this day is Kelvin Tham, because he really believed when I started SIP the second time that he could shift his master franchisee and give it to me when we started SIP in 2003. And that also is something that happened before I started SIP. Some of you also may not be aware of one other aspect that some of you have mentioned that I was in IIT, in the introduction, Shobhit mentioned that. But not many of you would be aware that when I was at IIT, a lot of my friends in the early 90s and the late 80s, what would they do after IIT?
Yes.
They'd all go to the US. And that's exactly what happened to most of my friends. And for some reason, actually not a very complicated reason, the reason was I wasn't enjoying engineering, I decided not to go to the US. And that was also a big decision at that time, simply because of the fact that all your college friends and you kind of separate off after college. Because they all actually go off, and those days we didn't have WhatsApp and all kinds of technologies to be in touch. So you would obviously know that you would largely not be in touch. And somewhere I had that sense that, why do smart young kids have to leave this country and go? Maybe because I didn't want to leave, so I was actually a little upset with them. But whatever be the reason. And somewhere in my mind I had this some thought that I must be part of doing something that will make young kids be happy to stay back in this country and not want to actually go. It just was a thought because of that exposure or that experience. And only, I would say, 4 or 5 years after I started SIP, I actually realized that in some way I'm doing something which connects with that thought. And I actually didn't realize it when I started SIP actually. But it actually connected very well. And that gives me the first thought about some kind of a dream, some kind of an idea. Maybe it's hidden inside you, maybe you don't realize it, but some kind of a dream or some kind of a desire to do something. And that is the beginning, I guess, for everyone, and that's the same true for me also, to do something like what we ended up doing in SIP. But it was just not just the desire and the dream. I think a lot of people have that. So if I were to look back on what really helped me build this organization, I would just give it to 3 factors. The first, like I said about the dream, but I just went one step further and we actually wrote that into a vision. And that's an important thing. A lot of people have dreams, but they don't really make the effort to write that down and think why they really want to do something. And some of you have heard of Simon Sinek speak about start with why. And that's really very important if you want to do something. You really have to think deeply, why do you want to do it? And we thought deeply about it very early on in SIP, and that's how we came up with this vision. And very early on we realized we want to make a difference, a big difference, or what we called it, make a significant impact on the mental potential of children. And once you have that, and the other idea was bring in world-class programs. And when I said world-class, what I thought was we must be the world's best. And only looking later, I realized why did I want to be the world's best? And it connected with my thought when I was at IIT. That it should be a really good place, which most people will feel proud of. So when I look at that simple idea and you write that idea down and you think about that idea of making a big difference or making a significant impact, immediately you begin to focus your organization on certain aspects. And obviously the first and most important aspect that came through was how do we deliver the program to children across the country in the best possible, in the most consistent manner. And that's what we spent a lot of time in the initial years, was how do we deliver this program. So our master trainers and the entire training system, we spent a lot of time, energy and even money in the early years to get that system right. And Anu, who's sitting here, would remember the multiple discussions that we've had in the early years. And that, I think, was a bedrock of ensuring that we are able to make a significant impact on the mental potential of children. And the second aspect, parallel to that, was that we also, when we met new franchises, we try to speak to them about this idea that we are here not just to make money, no doubt money will follow, but the key thing is, are we making an impact on children? And that helped us to attract a lot of passionate franchisees in the early years, which made this possible in every part of the country. So it was really the idea which added to this, how do we make great quality, and that also built in with getting good franchise. So that's the first part I would say. The second very important element of what has happened over the many years is that we actually managed to have an incredible team of people. And the people, like already mentioned, they were really drawn in, for whatever reasons, into the organizations. But the reason they stayed with the organization was because they connected with this idea. They really liked this idea, what we were doing, that we were trying to make a big impact on children's lives. And that idea made them put in extra efforts. Most of them worked late nights, weekends, traveled across the country. And the incredible team of the early people really motivated the next set of people and the next set of people. And that's how we were able to build such a large organization with a lot of passionate people over the years. And I would, this is a good occasion to maybe name a few of those people in the early years. And I think I miss some names, but there's no harm if I miss some names. But I would be happy to add some names. I would like to still mention some names. The first, obviously, as most of you know, was Sarla herself. And I think her incredible support to me over the years in believing in this idea has really helped me to be more confident about my ideas. Because you also have ideas, but you need someone to believe in you to be more confident that maybe you're on the right track. So even in the early years when we did not have any money with us, and I would say we should spend in this area, she would not create too much trouble for me. She would say, okay fine, let's just go spend it. And we would actually go and spend that money. So that was really useful, I would say not useful, it was really critical for us in the early years that I could really confidently go ahead and spend and invest my thoughts and my time on things which I felt were critical to help build this organization. Then there were so many early people who helped us. Many of them are thankfully still in this room. Some of them are sitting in the first two rows also. Then we have Shiv Shankar, I would like to really appreciate, who was one of the early franchisees. Some of you may not be aware, but he celebrates 21 years and we celebrate 20 years today. So I will leave that for you to figure out how that happened. But that's you can ask him how that happened, you can figure that out. So why I would really appreciate him was, in the early years we had no other way to market this program. And the only way we could market it was using demo kits. Even today we use the same thing. We never had laptops and we never had PowerPoint presentations and all these lovely videos that you see here. So we had just our mouth, a large abacus and a demo kit, that's it. And we would try to convince parents. And we were able to do that also in those days. We were getting a lot of these good students to come across and travel across the state, even outside the state in the early years, which helped us to convince many people about this program in the early years. No doubt, we had some wonderful people in the early years who are still with us. Narendra was there in the early years, and I'm happy that he's still here. And he is meeting Ilam, Anu, I've already mentioned, and Jay, and Sanjeev. And while Narayana Uncle is not here physically with us, but I think he was always there in early spirit. We also had Shirokta, who is not here. And I have also one very special person who is Nirmala, who was also someone who spent more than 20 years with the program. And why I would like to take her name is because she also traveled a lot in the early years and helped in training many teachers, especially in the north. And that's one of the reasons we were able to actually get a lot of centers in the north. Even Sanjeev did a lot of traveling and training in the early years. And we have also had people in the early years who are no longer with us, they moved out, but they were also quite instrumental in helping us build the early years of the organization. And some of you may recollect there was a person who was handling Maharashtra called Bharat Mago, person handling Andhra Pradesh called Sampath, and there was Janki used to handle West Bengal. And there were some few other people also, like who are employees like Hema and who are in the early years. And I think one more person, some of you may remember, was a lady called Bharti, who was a trainer, traveler, who also used to travel across. And now she is, I think, teaching in a well-known school here in Chennai. And she also was quite instrumental in the early years of helping us travel. And as we went along, we found a lot of young, enthusiastic, passionate people who joined us, and that actually propelled us to the next level. And you may know many of them are still around. We have people like Shubhajit, people like Rajesh. We had Shivika who joined us in the north, Shashikala who handles accounts for many years, Uma Swaminathan who was joined us in Calcutta and then in Hyderabad. Then we had Namrata who joined us in Global Art very early, and the two Sunitas in Global Art. Then we had Ramya, who also joined, and you saw her speak at the video, and then Jenny, and many other passionate franchisees came in the early years. Just the next, I would say the next batch of people who really took forward this idea of the early people and took it to the next stage. Actually, I've been quite lucky that we've been able to attract a lot of energetic, enthusiastic, and even Kavita mentioned her name when she spoke, who came in different roles, but they kind of really took it forward, and that really helped the organization to scale up. So that's the second idea, people. So that's the second thing that really helped. And the third thing was no doubt our culture. Already Sarla spoke a lot in the video about the culture, but I think that also was critical to retain all these people. Because you have good people coming in, but if you don't have the right culture, you will not retain them. So whether it's franchisees, whether it is state heads, partners, or employees, you're not going to retain people if you don't have the right culture. And we were fortunate that we spent a lot of time thinking through about our culture and through our various processes, especially those where we used to take feedback from people, talk. Even today, many new people say, why do you spend so much time doing discussions and debates and listen and build consensus and all that stuff. And that really helped people to feel part of the larger organization, feel part of the larger system. In addition to that, we also used to have a lot of times, we had a lot of fun. We used to, many people who come to our office feel that we are laughing too much and not working at all. And yes, we do have a lot of laughter at office and do a lot of events. And all that has built a wonderful culture, which has actually helped people to continue in spite of whatever challenges that they may have faced during the work, or even sometimes personal challenges they had outside work. And that's the third critical feature by which we really managed to retain and build this organization over the last 20 years. And as we went along, we obviously had a lot of positive stories, stories of success, children doing well, franchisees performing well, business doing well. That again motivated us, that inspired us. And that helped us to do the next level of challenge, the next level of work. And that's how we kind of built and continued to build the organization over the years. And naturally, like any organization grows, you have to make a lot of changes, and we did that quite proactively. One of the big changes we did was technology. I think whether compared to any other organization of a similar size or in a similar industry, we would have the most advanced technology in our system today. And we invested a lot of money, time, effort in building technology across our platforms very early on, almost 10 years ago. And that's really helped us during the COVID time, and even as we are going to scale up. And I have been scaling up and scaling up in the future. So that's the other thing which I guess any organization does, but we've also kind of prioritized that quite early on, building technology. Now that we've reached here, how do I look at the future? No doubt we're well positioned to look at the future. And as I think one of the speakers in the video, I think it was Mr. Yatindra, who mentioned that whatever be the challenges of artificial intelligence and chat GPTs and stuff like that in the future, the kind of work that we are doing is going to be even more relevant in the years ahead. Maybe mugging and rote learning is surely not going to be that relevant in the future. But the kind of work we are doing in developing the right mental skills for children is going to be even more relevant. And as the country gets a little richer, more parents will want their children to get these kinds of programs and learnings early on so that they can be better positioned for the future. We are very lucky that we live in the most populous country in the world. So it's a huge market for us. So in a way, we are very, very fortunate to be in a great place and we have a great history to actually take this forward. In addition, we also have the whole world open. We have a lot of countries that we've just started, and with the kind of knowledge and the kind of experience that we've gone through in India over the last 20 years, many countries will benefit, will want this kind of education and the kind of process that we've built in to help them also scale up their kids in the future. So there's no dearth of opportunity going forward. I don't see any challenge in the market going forward. I think the real challenge is, as we scale up, as any audience scales up, is the fact that as more and more new people come in, how would we adjust that they would be able to learn from the culture that we have, and sometimes we also have to change our culture to fit into what the new ideas that are coming from new people, and that's going to be one good challenge going forward. I would say that would be the biggest challenge going forward. How do we actually balance the two, new people, new franchisees, new teachers? How do we still keep the same passion, the same kind of close bonding culture, the friendly, the fun culture, as we have a lot more people in? And that's not going to be that easy at all, and I can see that's going to be a good challenge as we go up. But I think I'm not that worried about it. The reason is we've handled a lot more challenges in the past, and even the recent COVID challenge was something that nobody expected we would be able to handle it that well, and we very rapidly handled it right down to the teacher level, right down to the small towns, the villages, not the villages, the very small towns that we run our programs. We managed to handle the challenge very well. So I'm pretty confident this challenge will not be that hard to handle, but yes, we just have to keep in mind, and I'm pretty confident that the future is going to be even better and even more, I would say, enjoyable, even more positive in terms of successes in the years ahead. All we need to do, we just need to still remain humble, we just need to remain the fact that we still have to make the difference to that parent's child who comes to us. And as long as we remember that, I don't think we should have much of a problem going forward. So let me just conclude my rather long speech by telling all of you in this room and those watching online, all our employees, franchisees, teachers, master trainers, partners, even our school partners, and also our vendors, just one word: thank you.